On March 3rd, 2013, Danny DeVito tweeted, "Antonin Scalia retire, bitch." This is the Museum of Twitter, the show we talk about the most important tweets in the history of Twitter.com. Danny DeVito is a legend for lots of reasons, and this tweet is one of them. Because yes, he has had a storied acting and directing career stretching all the way back to the 70s, but he also made this tweet. And while he's not the first person to say retire, bitch, he certainly coined retire, bitch as an internet phrase. And for a man that has made a career out of being short in stature, it only makes sense that his internet phrase is short in length. Because it gets right to the point. He doesn't take the time to explain why he doesn't like Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. He doesn't tell him, hey, step down so you can be replaced. No, he gets right to it. Retire, bitch. I love it because it just oozes with contempt. For those who don't remember, Antonin Scalia was a Supreme Court justice, and he was known for being ultra-conservative. Now, personally, I think that he is behind some of the most odious opinions that the Supreme Court has released during my lifetime, but that's just one man's opinion. To get a vibe on what type of guy we're talking about, he once brought up Jack Bauer, Kiefer Sutherland's character in 24, in order to explain why torture was lawful. Basically, he said we need to let the government torture people, because what are you gonna do, stop Jack Bauer? And so that's why lots and lots of people really appreciated it when Danny DeVito took time out of his day to say Antonin Scalia retire, bitch. Because wow, I can't think of many things that would no doubt make this country in a much better place than if Antonin Scalia retired in March of 2013. But of course he didn't. He retired in February of 2016, and by retired, I mean he retired from life. And so Danny DeVito did get his wish. Although obviously Mitch McConnell fucked everyone over and didn't let them replace him on the Supreme Court, so the positive outcome that Danny DeVito was looking for didn't end up happening. But look, you don't need me to recap all of the bad events in the last 10 years of American history. A good event, though, is how sticky retire bitch has become as a phrase. And it is really often used in politics, like Matt Crispin said after the 2016 election, Howard Dean retire bitch, Chuck Schumer retire bitch, John Podesta retire bitch, John Chait retire bitch, Ezra Klein retire bitch. It does tell you about the political moment we're living in, because I think Howard Dean is the only person on this list who's actually retired since then, and this is over 8 years ago. But yeah, it's used the way that Matt Crispin uses it there, to show dissatisfaction with a politician. Like Gothmas Frizzle said, Brett Kavanaugh retire bitch. But it's also used as a way of gloating when a politician loses. Like when super racist even for a Republican Congressman Steve King lost his primary in 2020, James Medlock said, "It brings me quite a lot of pleasure to say, Steve King retire bitch." And in an ironic twist, when Senator Jeff Flake announced he was retiring, that led the Furlanator to have to say, Jeff Flake sucks twice as bad because you can't even say Jeff Flake retire bitch. Because you want to insult him, but he already decided he was going to retire. Now, a thing that I didn't realize until I was looking up examples for this is that I apparently love this meme. Like, if you had asked me how often I had used it, I would say maybe once or twice. But no, I've tweeted it a lot. I mostly use it for politics, but of course, you know me, I sometimes use it for sports. But chronologically, these are all the times I used it. In 2018, when AOC won her primary in shocking fashion, I tweeted, Joe Crowley, retire bitch, because if you don't remember, that was the guy that she beat. In January of 2019, I tweeted Adam Vinatieri, and I mean this, retire bitch. This is because kicker Adam Vinatieri wasn't playing that well, and for his own legacy and his own sake, I wanted him to retire. Shortly after that, I tweeted, please, I'm begging you, Tom Brady, retire bitch, because as a Jets fan, Tom Brady has caused me more emotional strife than basically any other person who's ever lived on Earth. I took a couple years off, and in 2022, when Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro lost his re-election bid, I tweeted, Jair Bolsonaro, retire bitch. And a little over a month ago, when a poll came out showing AOC beating Chuck Schumer in a primary, I tweeted, Chuck Schumer, and I really can't emphasize this enough, retire bitch. And honestly, I stand by every single one of those. And some of the funnier ways I found it used is when it's not actually talking about like a person, but like an entity. I don't mean the entity, the villain in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, but like an entity that's not a person. Like when Lennon Lover 69 tweeted, rogue POTUS staff, retire bitch. Because if you don't remember, early on in the Trump administration, there was a bunch of like fake accounts that were like rogue service, like federal service, pretending to be someone who was in that federal service, but like was tweeting secretly. And the worst one was rogue POTUS staff, because it was acting like it was someone who like worked at a high level in the White House, who was like tweeting things like, well, this is all gonna crumble, like, don't worry, stay strong. And like, it's like, that's not a real person. When Elle Magazine tweeted about Hillary Clinton and Kate McKinnon getting dinner, Nola Tango tweeted, Elle Magazine, retire bitch. And one that I can personally relate to is $4 Plastic Skeleton tweeted, acid reflux, retire bitch. Because seriously, this stuff costs an arm and a leg. I do think that there's a culture, particularly on political Twitter, particularly on left-leaning political Twitter, to be too dismissive. And in some ways, retire bitch is a symptom of that. But also, I feel like our political culture is really not responsive at all. And sometimes you just need to cut through the noise with retire bitch. And personally, I think that that is the sign that you need to retire. Because the moment that my comments are filled with sincere calls of Mr. Curator, retire bitch, I'll probably stop doing the show. Keeping in mind that I use the word sincere there, because I know that a lot of people are going to comment that on this video, and I'm not going to take that as sincere. Go to the link in my bio. I am doing a 24-hour live stream tomorrow to raise money for LGBTQ kids in Central Florida. You donate, you send me the receipt, you choose the movies I watch during the 24-hour live stream.